Chair, you are now live.
Good afternoon. I'm Chair Katie Cornell, and I would like to welcome you to the September 2020 meeting of the Public Art and Culture Commission. The Public Art and Culture Commission was originally called the Public Art Board and was established by the City of Asheville in 2000. This 9-member commission serves as the advisory board to the city on matters concerning public art in public spaces. The commission is responsible for promoting public art in the city, overseeing the city's public art projects, ensuring the art displays in public buildings and public spaces in the city of Asheville are properly maintained. All committee members and staff are participating virtually. We are streaming live on our virtual engagement hub, which is accessible through the virtual engagement hub link on the front page of the city's website and on the city's YouTube page. To participate by phone, dial 855-925-2801, meeting code 9182. You can send public comments to Public Art and Cultural Commission at publicinput.com. Okay, I'm now going to go through and let all of the committee members introduce themselves or say that they're here. Please make sure to mute your microphone when you're not speaking. If you have a question or would like to speak, unmute your microphone, and then please mute your microphone again when you're not speaking. Committee members, as I call your name, please say a quick hello. Shirley Whitesides.
Hello, everyone.
Allie McGee.
Hello.
Andrew Fletcher.
Good afternoon.
Pete Perez.
Hello.
Joanna Haggerty.
Hi there.
Reggie Tidwell.
Hello.
And Marcia Almodovar could not be with us today. So we are going to go ahead and move into our administrative items. The first item on our agenda is minutes from a previous meeting. Our last previous meeting that we need to review minutes for is in May, and those are in process. So we'll look at them at our next meeting. Outreach for new members. I emailed you all, Jasmine Washington has resigned due to other commitments. And so we actually have a vacancy, which is published as an opening by the city in this month's boards and commission openings. So if you have anybody that you would like to nominate or encourage to apply for this, please do so. Steph, I believe we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the meeting. Is that right? Yeah. And then the last piece, as far as administrative items, member terms updates. You were sent a link to a spreadsheet that has all of our terms on it and asked to please review and make sure your information is correct. And if you need to make a correction, they should send that to you, Steph. Yeah, and so email Steph if you see something that needs to be corrected. All right, so I think we can move on to continued business. And the first is the Peck Square visioning and Art in the Heart updates and next steps.
Great. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for being here today. It's nice to see everyone. We were just talking before we got on how we actually haven't had a meeting in a little while. So it's wonderful to get back together, especially because so much is going on. Give me just one moment and I'm going to, of course, share a presentation. And I'll link this presentation to your agenda afterwards because there are some things in it that you'll probably, I'll go all the way to the top here. There are some things in it that you'll probably want to reference. So I'm going to give an update on the overall Peck Square Plaza visioning project and also on Art in the Heart, which you are very familiar with today. Just wanted to do some reminding here. First of all, the idea behind the Peck Square Plaza visioning process, documenting the community's vision for a more equitable, accessible, and inclusive Peck Square Plaza, including the site where the Vance Monument was previously located, and physical and mental connections to and from the Block neighborhood just next door. So you're going to see that we are continuing to stress, especially as we use our equity lens, what we can do to help the Block neighborhood become more visible to people, as it says, both physically, but also as a place that's in everyone's mind as they're visiting the center of our downtown. This was in our request for proposals, but until we really talked with a lot of different community members, we weren't sure what that was going to look like, and it's starting to shape up now. So additional reminders that this work is a continuation of what's happened from the Vance Monument Task Force and the recommendations made to the city and county, that we have hired basically a project manager to assemble that vision document and lead the community engagement process. But what you'll hear about too is that since they're not, located here, there's just going to be a lot of local push from city and county staff. That the elements of the project include community engagement, site analysis, urban design, and recommendations on public space management for the area. Both short and long term, and that we're using Art in the Heart as a way to spark conversations and get people to talk about who we are as a community and what we might want this place to look and feel like in the future. Also, these links here would take you to the Peck Square Plaza Visioning project page and the Art in the Heart project page, both of which have an extensive amount of background information on the project, including all the links to Vance Monument Task Force documents. I wanted to really point out here, the vision document will include recommendations on, these are 5 subject areas, and we're going to see how this connects to our community engagement at the back end. So I'll go over them. The 5 recommendation areas in this document are going to be recommendations associated with repurposing of the former Vance Monument area. How is that going to look and feel? Is that going to have a monument on it? Will it be cleared? Is it now going to be a busker zone? Who knows? Number 2, how can equity inclusion be advanced at Peck Square Plaza? Even, we say advance again, before we do any capital project development. So I think we know that there's going to be some changes proposed to the area itself, but that might take a while. So what can we do before then? Number 3, guidance for the future design and the design process for capital improvements, including budgetary considerations. Number 4 is recommendations on a public-private partnership to support future improvements to the area. And number 5 is recommendations on ideas to better connect both physically and mentally Peck Square to the block. Some engagement has already happened. So leading up to everything that we're doing in the next couple of months, we have been talking to adjacent property owners. We have been talking to members of the Block Community Collaborative. We have been engaging CALA students and Friends of Buncombe County Special Collections to help us really understand this area in a different way. Just making sure everybody knows what we're talking about when we say Peck Square Plaza. This is a generous and not entirely accurate rendering of what we're studying. We're constantly refining these maps, so watch out for that. The line on the north side is going to push back towards the Biltmore building a little bit more because that's actually city property. And on this one right here, we have a boundary showing the block. And again, we're looking at connectivity in both a physical way and a mental way. So we're trying to figure out how to better iterate what types of work we'll be doing. But those are the geographic boundaries of what we're looking at. And the cool thing is that this process is kicking off tomorrow officially. So you'll see a press release go out, and I'll make sure you guys get it. There should be some social media if you guys can support retweeting and forwarding all of the different things that happen with social media that I'm too silly to know how to do. I appreciate that help. So the big thing is that the engagement hub in anticipation of that is already live. If you've been down in Peck Square the past 48 hours, you'll notice there are sidewalk decals. and placards and different signs around about Art in the Heart. So since we have QR codes on that, we've gone ahead and made that engagement hub live, and it's publicinput.com/Peck Square. This is the first week that we have it. It's going to change on Saturday morning already. We're going to be putting additional questions and kind of survey opportunities up regarding the art that's going up in Peck Square this weekend. But it's right now, it's just got some survey questions about Peck Square itself, and we've already received some comments. The 4 projects that are going up this weekend, I'm going to talk about in just a second, but these they're things that I hope that you all can attend, and just note there are at least 7 more installations to come. We are going to be assembling a community advisory committee next week, and we're developing a calendar of touch points. We're looking to go out and do 5-minute overviews or listening sessions at community events, neighborhood associations, and doing this until mid-November. And then at the end of all of that, we're going to have a series of special events, November 8th through 12th. Those things are going to look like walking tours, panels, drop-in meetings, special focus groups, online engagements. That's all going to happen in what we call an Engagement Power Week. And I hope you can mark your calendars for that. So I'm going to go through each one of these things really quickly. Publicinput.com/Peck Square. Oh, it's not going to let me go to that because I'm not hooked up to the city's network, but it's a great place. So please go ahead and check that out. And if you could answer some of those questions, let us know what you think about the site and how it's operating. That would be really great. For Art in the Heart, these are the 4 art installations that are going up this weekend, 11 a.m. and 12 p.m. tomorrow. Things get kicked off with a puppet show called Leah and the Rabbit. That's done by Michaela Wilson and folks from the American Myth Center. Then you have, you're going to see probably some installations starting to go up, maybe tomorrow, but definitely on Sunday for Room in the Sky by Jackson Martin and House of Hues by Kat Naz. Those are going to be both in the central area and then over by the Birch Lawn in front of the Biltmore building. You can find out a lot more about these projects by going onto the website for Art in the Heart. And then Faces of Change is going to be going up tomorrow, but the special screening is at 7 p.m. on Sunday. So come on down to Peck Square. There'll be a film screening at 7 p.m. So the third thing I talked about in that list was a community advisory committee. And that community advisory committee, we're hoping to kick that off next week. And the city and county are talking about what the composition of that looks like right now. I mentioned the community engagement calendar. That is a way for us to connect in community. We don't want to have a ton of meetings where we just say, hey, everybody, come on down to a meeting where you give us your information. And you have to drive down to Harris Cherokee Center to do it. We want to go out and meet people where they're at. And then November 8th through 8th through 12th, which is our Power Community Engagement Week. That is when we are going to reconnect the dots to the 5 recommendation areas and have special events that are pointed at getting input from people on those things. So again, those 5 areas are: what should we do with the area where the Vance Monument was or is going to be gone from? How can we advance equity and inclusion in Peck Square Plaza now and in the future? What kind of design should we be looking at, and what kind of design process should we be looking at, knowing our financial limitations? That's the budgetary consideration points. What kind of operational management considerations, potential public-private partnerships could we be thinking about so that this park and the plaza is well taken care of in the future according to this community's vision? And then how can we better connect to the block? And how can we connect Peck Square to the block? So what I'm looking for from y'all is some feedback today. I have some questions on here, and I'm happy to go over any of the content that I presented here to help you think about these questions a little bit more specifically. In general, I'm wondering how you guys are reacting to what you're hearing, what comments you might have on our approach to community engagement and our timing for the project, what we're focusing on for the project, what ideas you might have to help us fill the community engagement calendar. So for example, if you're working at the a Montford craft fair, and you know that there's an opportunity to table at that and let people know, is that something that you could help us with? And then the last bit is about the special events on November 8th through 12th. We're really looking at creating events, as I mentioned, that where people don't feel like they're just coming to give something to us as a city, which they've been doing for many, many years. You all have been doing, but they get something back too. So an example, several of you know this, when we had the Haywood and Page community engagement events, when we did our first kickoff, the people that came, they got some, and I can't remember because Dana ended up operationalizing this somehow. We gave them a token. Somehow we had food trucks, and we were able to give them dinner that night after we did a tour. And it was a nice way of it being something where we had an opportunity to give back to the people that came. So I'm looking for input on that as well. Don't all bombard me at once. You're killing me. So I'll start with the first question, which was, is there anything that was surprising to you that I just told you about? Do you feel like those 5 areas that we discussed are the areas that need to be thought about when we're looking at Peck Square? Getting some nods. Pete, you're muted.
I especially like the idea of connecting the block better to Pack Square.
Okay.
There's just even from pedestrian or car, it's hard to get there because of the one-way streets, and there's just a lot of opportunity. I think that would be really, really good to both spread traffic around better rather than bottlenecking it through those areas. And I think that'd just be good for business and good for the presence of the block in downtown. So I really like that part of it.
Yeah, I think you've got the right questions there, Stephanie. I mean, to me, they feel like really good tent poles. If we can get real clear on that, that should really help us shape the vision as to what we're going to do. And I like the idea of not just physical, but mental flow between the block and the rest of Peck Square and what we can do around that. So I think if we get good answers to that and get clarity on that, that'll be a good guidepost for us for the project.
Could you provide a little more clarity about the 2 different maps and when you're looking at each one?
So the primary study area that we're focusing on is the map for Peck Square. We're really just kind of shortening it to the square at this point. And because this is a continuation of the work to remove the Vance Monument, we're focusing on not only how can we repair the harm that was done by that, but look at other harms with the way that the area is designed or programmed. So that's our primary focus area for that map. The block map, what I'd say is, because we're looking at both physical and mental connections, it's hard to look at that whole map and say, you're not really going to study that whole area, right? To not say that. That's true. We're not really coming up with a plan for the block. I should clarify that. But what we are going to do is partner with the Block Community Collaborative, and especially the YMI as one of Western North Carolina's leading cultural institutions, to say, how is it that we can, what Andrew was saying, but look at the connections both physically and mentally. They're going to be from like Market Street, right? When you're standing on the eastern side of the Peck Square Plaza, you're right on access with the YMI. You can look down and see it. When you're standing at the corner by the Jackson building, you can't actually even see the YMI, between the cars and the trees, and you have no idea what's down there. So we might come up with a different map, or maybe one map that shows that we're looking at those areas of connections. But we don't want people to forget that we're trying to support the growth and economic development, economic and community development of the entire block community, and not just the one corridor.
Is there anything like this already, like wayfinding signs in that area that sort of like points to this historic site and these businesses and this, I'm trying to think about just big visible things that were actually like basically big arrows in a way.
Yeah, so I can tell you it's a great question. We have a mishmash of signs right now. So there is, for instance, right at the municipal building or the fire station, most people know there is a state historical sign for the Young Men's Institute. And, it's one of those things that says, 500 yards south, what have you. It's really hard to see. That is also one of the locations of Hope Springs Forth Brightly, the Celebrating African Americans Through Public Art project. So people don't really see that. And then on the Western Gateway, there's nothing on the Southern Gateway. On the Western Gateway, there's nothing really pointing you unless you count maybe the sandwich signs that are used by some of the businesses on the block. And of course, there's an urban trail marker there for the Eagle Hotel and another Hope Springs Forth Brightly installation. I can say, though, I was in a meeting with members of the block community and the TDA, and the TDA has done a study to look at intra-district wayfinding for all of downtown, for parts of downtown, including the South Slope and the block. So they're meeting with community right now to consider putting up additional wayfinding signs.
I would just add that because the roads are so narrow, it makes it really hard for tour buses to get down there too. So is there any kind of consideration that could possibly expand the roads down to the block?
I don't know the answer to that. Good question, Katie. We'll
Okay.
put it in the publicinput.com site. I appreciate that. And just as a reminder, since we're talking about, public art and culture, we're talking about things like the Goobay Festival, which used to be held on the block and is now held in Peck Square. And we're talking about the potential, when we had the tour in April and Reggie and you all came back and came up with this wonderful idea for this mural project. Those are the things that are going to connect and help drive people in that direction and understand what's going on there.
I was thinking about festivals as another way that could potentially bridge the space between the areas, right? If there's a festival that's kind of happening in both and it's linking the area. But I don't know. And I also thought about walking tours. It seems like it's an ideal area for walking tours, which Asheville could probably stand to have more of.
Yeah. We do see many of them in Peck Square. Hood Huggers does some in the block, and I'm not sure who else goes in the block regularly, but I'm glad you brought that up. One of the ideas we have for that November 8th through 12th, it revolves around walking tours, and even perhaps the name of it is something like Open House on Peck Square and a walk around the block, where we bring people literally into the block.
There's the James Fester Miller walking tour as well.
Yep.
I would like to ask a question. If it's raining, you're still going to have the event?
Are you talking about
On November the 12th?
Yeah. I think we'll try to plan it so that we can have events rain or shine. It's a great question, Shirley, especially because 2 of our Art in the Heart projects were rained out last weekend, and that's why we're having them this weekend.
The reason I asked, if you want to try to get people there, and I don't know if you're going to add any more entertainment, but I have an idea maybe we could bring our jazz band up.
Mhm.
And the reason we didn't apply because I thought about weather and instruments. So that's why, especially when you get into December.
Yeah, it's a tough one for any of the outdoor special events. We've been having conversations with, and most of you have participated in an outdoor special event or Joanna's run them. So, yeah, it's iffy.
I wonder if there's a way, if or maybe this is already happening, if businesses that week could somehow be involved, like have special, open door, I mean, depending on the weather probably, but like come in and grab a
scone.
A scone, yes, and learn something, meet people. Yeah, but something like that. And I'm just thinking about the shops down there that it'd be fun to involve them.
Yes, exactly. That's great.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
So Steph, as far as the Public Art and Culture Commission goes, what do you see our role in soliciting public input being?
So a couple things. One, I think your role has several parts. I think one thing is you helping us connect to other community events. So I'm going to have a stack of postcards. They're going to change every month based on what they're doing. And I'm willing to go and show up at an Asheville music professionals happy hour. And you give me 2 minutes, I'm going to give an elevator speech and I'm going to hand those cards out. And hopefully people from Asheville music professionals are then going to go to the publicinput.com site and fill out some of the survey questions and perhaps attend one of the events and let us know how things could be better for people who are in the music industry. So that's one big thing, is just letting us know between now and mid-November if your professional associations, your community groups, any place that one of us from the city or county could come for 2 to 5 minutes. I can come bearing gifts, and they'll be in the form of, kombucha or cupcakes, whatever you think is appropriate, so that makes things go down a little bit easier. And so that's one big thing.
So we do have an event that I'm happy to invite you to. The Asheville Music Professionals are having an event actually on October 4th. So if you want to just connect with me on details about that.
Okay.
It's an informal event. So, it's just more of it's more of a mixer, no agenda, just a sort of hang out, rub elbows kind of thing. But it's downtown, so we'd be welcome.
Okay, that's fantastic. It's exactly that type of thing. So it's more helpful for me to have an in than to just blindly call some of these groups and just say, hey, can I speak? It's nicer to have an introduction. The second part is that I know that whether it continues to be a subcommittee of this group, if it continues to be, at regular meetings, or if we end up having a community advisory committee where we take members from a bunch of different city county boards, we're going to need you for the long haul. We're going to need 1 to 3 of you to really buckle down and help us understand if we, at specific milestones, if we are going the right way with community engagement, if when we have a document that says, this is what we heard, if it's really inclusive and it's going to help us form a vision document, when that draft vision document comes out, whether or not it actually represents our community and looks like these things are feasible. So those are the kind of long haul things that we're going to need you for. That's just the second part. And then there's maybe 4 parts then. I'll say the third part revolves around that November 8th through 12th. I'm just going to keep adding things for you to do. The third part revolves around that November 8th to 12th week. So, we all have networks we've done a pretty good job already. Like we're building relationships, having meetings with most of the adjacent property owners or stakeholders in the area, since any of the events that we are going to do impact them on a daily basis. But just like Allie mentioned, there's business owners on the block in Peck Square that you may be really tight with, that you could say, would you be able to participate in this thing? What would it look like? How could it be beneficial for you to show off your business or not for profit? Who could you partner with and help me figure out how to make it easy for people? Me and the team. And then the fourth thing, we really were talking about this a little bit before the meeting started, and it was being inspired by the community engagement that the Riverfront Redevelopment Commission was able to solicit last week at their water quality summit. They, like many boards and commissions, are unsung heroes. They do their work every month. No one comes to their meetings. Very few public comments. That they thought nobody was listening. And then they decided to have a special meeting, a water quality summit. They were going to invite 30 people and the general public, and 100 people ended up showing up at their meeting because it was a topic that people were interested in, and they had enough connections in the community with that many people on the board that they were all able to bring in 5 or 10 people. I think there's something to be said about us having a conversation about flexing part of your role, which is to educate the public about public art, and letting you in, say, October or November, have a meeting where you're talking about the public art that's actually in this area. Maybe it's just you all at the November 12th, which is a Saturday meeting, giving tours of the public art in the area. Maybe it's something as simple as that, and that's flexing your role with educating people. And, each one of you might approach that tour differently, right? I thought it was pretty neat when we all walked around and we talked about like which of our urban trail stations were our favorite and why, or which ones did we think we needed to have conversations about and that might needed to be interpreted differently and why. So that's a lot. Your mission if you choose to accept it. And these are just, I know that you guys sometimes are, it's very hard, pulling back for a second. It's very hard sometimes with boards and commissions to know, what parts of your role you should be flexing or what you were being asked to do. And so in this case, I think between now and our next meeting, it would be great for Andrew and Katie as the chair and vice chair and myself to have a couple conversations. We don't want to do any deliberations outside of a meeting, but to perhaps collect ideas from the rest of the commission members or interests, even levels of interest in participating in some of these special events, ideas for leveraging existing initiatives in the community. That's another big thing, especially what we heard from members of the Black artist community was how, and historic, people working on historical initiatives was how could we leverage existing initiatives. Shirley, I think our March meeting had this great conversation about Peck Square serving as a beacon and connecting people to other neighborhoods and letting them know what's going on. So how do we leverage that idea?
That calls into the idea of the beacon that was on top of the Jackson Tower.
Oh yeah.
This rotating searchlight that was on the top of the Jackson Tower. So that I like that metaphor and that piece of history that can connect there possibly.
So if you have ideas or you want to be part of that long haul team, I invite you to email Andrew and I and let us know as we prepare to have this conversation with Steph. Steph, the next is to move on to current projects. Are you done, or does anybody have any other comments before we move on?
I just want to make one comment. If we're trying to get people together and get people excited about something, food and music. Asheville loves food and music, so that works.
I still remember going and eating at the food trucks in the. I'm going to say Pit of Despair. I know that's not what it is.
That's
but
okay.
I still remember that event being so great. And
It's the Pit of Possibilities.
Yes,
Alley.
that's right. There was a better name for it. Sort of I can't get my brain. It's not working right now. But it was really memorable, and I loved it. I saw a lot of people there. It felt really full. Yeah, so I'm all about food too.
I thought that was a good process too. I was there for that. I realized I screwed up on the administrative items. I was supposed to talk about those things that I thought I was supposed to talk about later at that point about the election and considerations for our new member. Should I do that now, or do you want to save that for later? It's up to you, Steph.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Well, Chair, I think you should do it if it came up into your head. I think we should talk about elections.
So I'm so sorry. I completely forgot. Our elections are coming up in January. And so we'll be electing a new chair and vice chair. Both Andrew and I are rolling off the board in June. So neither one of us will be chair or vice chair. And so you guys need to start thinking about that. I just wanted to give you a heads up because it's coming up quickly. The other
I can't believe it's been 6 years.
I
Actually, a little longer, because I finished the term, I think, before I joined. So, wow.
By super fast. The other thing is we were going to talk a little bit about what we want to look for in our next PAC member. Does anybody have any thoughts on specific skills or attributes we should be looking at for a PAC member?
I'm wondering if there's any potential candidates out of the people that we've selected for the safety artwork and for what we did for Art in the Park, if that's not a place to potentially look. Because we've got some people in there that are pretty active in the community, as well as being really good artists.
Yeah, I was definitely feeling that an artist feels like it would really round us out right now. Luckily, we have Andrew, a musician, and then lots of us and other perspectives. But yeah, someone creating art locally would feel really valuable, I think.
I think that's right. And that's kind of what Jasmine, fulfilled because she is an artist.
Mm-hmm.
And I think not necessarily a busker, but someone from a performing art, like music, would be good. But obviously, someone in the visual arts, I think, is strong too. I know when I first joined, we're more heavy in artists and light on musicians, and so I think that having a balance and having wide representation there is good. And also people who are currently, but really more than a particular form of art, someone who's currently working in the arts, I think is on a day-to-day basis, paying their bills, going through in the city in that lifestyle, I think is who I'd like to see someone in this seat going forward. So that is what, though I won't be here to make that choice. So I hope that making sure that people who are living and working as artists here are well represented in policymaking.
You'll be here for this choice. I agree. I think it would be really beneficial if we had somebody that an artist that does large scale public art projects would be some really great insight to have on the board. I know that we've all at different times expressed the process is a little clunky, and I think it needs to be a little bit easier for working artists locally in particular to navigate our calls for public art. Any other thoughts? Okay, sorry, we'll go back to where we were in the agenda now. I apologize for that. So we're at update on current projects and the Broadway Public Safety Station.
So in your agenda, there is a link that takes you to a little flyer, and the flyer has a QR code on it. Just wanted to let you guys know that there is public input being solicited right now for Broadway Public Safety as well. Joanna and Pete, I know, I'm not sure if anybody else, but I know you've been working on this project. Do you have any other comments on that, the public input part of this?
I'm not sure where we're at on public input. I mean, we've been involved at the selection process, and
Right.
I know part of what we'd ask the artists is how they were going to go about doing it. And I haven't been in contact with how they're going about carrying it out. I know they asked each of them in an interview process for a game plan as to how they would do it. And part of the selection was that they had good answers, but I don't know any follow-up on it. I don't know, Joanne, if you know anything more.
No, they haven't invited us into any specific meetings for that recently since the selection has happened. So
Okay, well, so I think they're moving on to phase 2, and looks like they're getting they're going out to a couple different events in the community, in and around the community, and then they have this place where there is a survey. And so I encourage all of you to share that and or take it, and we'll hear more about it. But as a reminder, your team selected, I believe it was Alex Irvine and Gertz,
I think it was the iron worker. Yep.
The structural engineer that's going to be
Yep.
helping on it.
Yep.
Yes. Okay.
Is the construction on time for the safety station?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, things are moving along there. So the second update, and other people may know more about this than I do too. It's not so much dissimilar. Well, maybe, because since the last time we met, they were just looking at working with Becky and fabricating the piece. They're now in fabrication, and they're hoping to install by October. There have been some, design issues, of course, and some budget issues, of course, but in general, things are moving forward, says Susanna, and that's very exciting.
And just to clarify, that's for Jake Rusher Park.
That's for Jake Rusher.
So I guess we're ready to move on to new business.
Okay.
Do you want to give a bit of a background about this, Steph?
I can let you know that at the council meeting this past week, they finally adopted, I want to say finally, because it's been something that's been at the governance committee, and it's been going through conversation for several months, but council did finally consider and then adopt a resolution that supported advisory boards having remote meetings if they chose to, and also to move towards in-person meetings if they chose to. I linked in your agenda the resolution and the policy that was adopted. The bottom line is we're asking you to consider whether or not your meetings moving forward for, say, the next year are going to be online or in person. There are some pros and cons to each. Probably the biggest con of having in-person meetings right now is that those meetings will not be live streamed for the foreseeable future. There's not the technology or the resources within the city to do that. There are ways for you to have in-person meetings and then choose to have special meetings remotely. And it just requires us to have a little bit more notice, but that's not necessarily a problem. I also think the opposite is generally true. But to get to the meat of this, for the public's benefit, they really need to expect that you're either going to have remote meetings or that you're going to have in-person meetings so that they can plan on participating in them. So that is why we're asking you to to make a choice. It's almost like making a choice of your meeting location, which we require the boards and commissions to do. Meeting location, date and time be set and on a regular basis.
So I'll just say, I think there's a lot to be said for meeting in person and being together in the same space, but that's a pretty big con not having it live streamed. I do like the fact that our meetings are live streamed and recorded so people can watch them later if they want to. I know I watch most of the meetings through video recordings later because I can't always do it at time. So, I feel my personal feeling is for accessibility, we should continue to meet remotely until it is fixed and, you can have in-person meetings that are live streamed. But I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I'd land in the same place. I'd want to keep it. I like the way we've been doing it, where it's been mostly virtual, but then we have some hands-on meetings, particularly as we move into this PAC score visioning. I think there's probably going to be opportunities come up for us to be able to do that and to be, to pick our spots as to where we would get together. Because I thought we were together and going around both looking at the artwork and then looking at what we might do. The mural, some really good ideas came out from the group that we could take advantage of. Oh, look at that. Hi.
I'll say this piece while she's being quiet. I think I'm in agreement with you, Pete. I miss seeing everybody in person. I like the synergy and the flow that happens when we're all in person and doing these kind of more interactive, walking around kind of meetings. So if there's a way to kind of have both, right? And we do our main meetings live streamed, virtual until we can get back in and have that work. Yeah, I do. I think we get more done, or it seems like there's more energy when we're together. And
I think partially, in a meeting like this, a lot of what we're doing is more of administrative, and I think that is and less brainstorming, right? I think that so I in general I support open meetings, and this is a more open meeting than an in-person meeting that isn't live streamed. And while there's pros and cons to each, I'll voice my support for the more open approach, which is the live stream approach. But I do think that work sessions around specific tasks, like we've done before when we're in person, when we've got a specific thing that we're going to do, more of like a single agenda item that requires us to be on site to work on. I think that is a best use of us on site. And other than that, for more of these types of meetings where we've got official votes and things like that, I feel that open is the way to go. And until they can be open and in person, then this is what I'm with. But I'm also sensitive to the timing of new people coming on board, and I do want to make sure that I'm not making a decision for future board members that are going to come along, and that I hope that when people come in and sit in our seats, Katie, that they get to have this conversation too, and that we didn't just have it for them. So, that is my opinion there.
I think that's a good observation about being focused, Andrew, because not just here, but all the Zoom meetings I'm on, it's so hard to brainstorm. There's these huge yawning gaps in there to be able to come in. Unless somebody sticks in and starts going, you tend to have less of the group participating with it. And I also like that idea of if anything, when we get the new commission members, of having a get together just around that. So they got somebody to connect to, so we can talk about what the history is, what projects we have, get to know each other and get any input from them. I think, because just socialize them. I know for me, coming on relatively new, it was great to be able to go in there and just meet people and to see what's going on. What are you thinking about, etc.
Steph, if we choose to do remote meetings or virtual meetings, is there anything preventing us from doing our field trips and our special, like our annual treat in person?
There is nothing preventing you from doing it. I would recommend as staff that if you were to consider a motion to hold your regular meetings remotely, that you also consider a portion of that motion to say accepting meetings to be held in the field when it increases productivity And those meetings shall be noticed at least 1 week in advance. And then that will help with the transparency as well as just making sure that when you have those, the meetings law is 48 hours. That's all you really need. But by saying that you will notice any remote or in-person meeting a week in advance, that really sends a signal that you're doing this for transparency's sake and accessibility. So something like, so the answer is no, it will be fine. And so something like, I make a motion to hold regular meetings remotely, accepting special work sessions where being on location supports the commission's productivity. In-person meetings shall be noticed at least 1 week in advance. Just a suggestion from staff. You don't have to take that.
I find that very compelling. Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
I like the idea of remote meeting and then special work sessions. And it was good to see everybody, especially on a Sunday day.
Mhm.
And it really, to me, you get more people involved if it's remote, especially trying to find a parking space. And then for me, I run an after school program, so I can do both, where I can, be on the premises plus help. So whatever you decide, I'm in accord with it.
So Reggie, Joanna, do you have any thoughts?
I think you guys spoke very well on it all.
Yeah, I mean, I like there's something to be said about being in person in this day and age. So I think I feel like there tends to be more action that comes out of in-person meetings versus online. Online feels a little detached. You have 40 million things going on, and it's very easy to kind of not be fully present. So that's my 2 cents.
Does somebody want to make a motion with all the things that Steph said?
I can repeat the motions. Do people want to hear it again? All right. So it would be, I make a motion to hold regular meetings of the Public Art and Cultural Commissions remotely, accepting special work sessions where being on location supports the commission's productivity. In-person meetings shall be noticed at least 1 week in advance.
Does for the next year have to be, does that language need to be in there?
Yes.
Okay. So I make a
add that.
motion to move to remote meetings for the next year, accepting situations in which the mission of the Public Art and Cultural Commission is enhanced by in-person meetings, in which case there shall be 1 week notice given of in-person meetings.
Well done. Wow.
Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Pete has seconded. Now I'm going to do a roll call vote. Shirley, what's your vote?
Yes.
Allie?
Aye.
Andrew?
Aye.
You made the motion, so you don't. Pete, you seconded, so you don't need to vote. Joanna?
Aye.
Reggie?
Aye.
And I also vote aye. So it passes.
And I will need another similar motion, making another determination for the year after this in September 23. So which Katie and I won't be around for. So.
Well, my hope is they'll have the live streaming fixed by then.
And so it'll be just an easy transition into the hybrid. Yeah.
Could we put like a caveat? I know we've already voted, but could there be a caveat that if they fix the live streaming issue, we would be interested in moving to in-person meetings? Or do we have to commit for the whole year now?
You do not have to commit for the whole year. So what you would do is just consider a new motion when that happens. You would say, we would like to make a motion to move our meetings to in-person.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I would be happy to bring that back as soon as that issue is fixed. So we are moving on to updates. There is a request for assistance with the Burton Street project. Steph, you want to?
So Burton Street community has received a grant and are moving forward with engaging youth in learning about public art and creating public art. They're going to be having tours in different areas, and they're bringing in a couple people to talk about the city's public art process. The hope is that can help show the youth in the area that art is a legitimate career and that there are opportunities to improve your own neighborhood by walking down or running or dancing down that path. I would like one or two members of the Public Art and Cultural Commission to help me present to them. I've been asked to speak to them about the city's public art process. So I'm looking for a couple volunteers. If you would like to consider it and then let me know, please just email me after the meeting.
Did you say when was that?
Yeah, when we was asking the date.
The date has not been determined, and we will determine that based on the availability of who is able to participate. And I'll let you know that I would say that it is okay if all of you want to participate. And this is crazy, but if it became a quorum, I can just call it a special meeting. We can make sure it's in a public place. And if other people wanted to see this in action, that would be fine. I think every one of you are super valuable and can provide a lot of experience and representation of skills. So you can just let me know by email. Sound all right? Okay, so I'll give you a due date. I'll give you a due date, and that is let me know by 1 week from today, by next Thursday, close of business, if you would, please.
I do love the idea of this being a special meeting of the Public Art and Culture Commission. I mean, that's one of our duties, is to educate about public art. And I think this could be our water quality summit.
Okay.
So the next thing is they're in around the table of members, and I'm guessing this is just people sharing about events. I'll kick things off. The Asheville Area Arts Council is doing a series of candidate forum events, Arts AVL town halls. We did our first one last week with state candidates and went really well. And we have two more, one with county commissioners coming up on September 28th. And then our final event is with city council candidates and mayoral candidates on October 12th, and it's being moderated by Reggie. And so I really hope that you guys will come out there. In both the county and city forums, there's going to be a direct question about public art. So I hope you'll join us. Right. Who's next?
I'll be there.
Andrew will definitely be there for the city one.
Definitely be there as well.
I was gonna say someone else is next. Is it Joanna?
Sure, I'll say something. So, Biz and Buzz Radio are local Asheville radio stations, and they are partnering with IMAVL to do music video Asheville this year. And it's coming up October 5th. So it's always a really fun event. So much music and art, and just a really cool way of putting so many different facets of our art scenes together. So.
Got one. The Center for Craft is they're celebrating the installation of the basket, which is an installation, also a parklet. On October 15th, there's going to be, I think, Cherokee catered food, live music. It's family friendly, indoor and outdoor activities, and I think it's in the afternoon from like 1 to 4. So that'll be very cool. Yeah, the whole design was created in collaboration with Eastern Band of Cherokee Indian experts and basket makers and landscape architects. It's gonna be really neat.
a good segue into my event, our event. If you want to learn about the Parklet at Center for Craft, Design Weekend is September 30th through October 2nd. And Mary and Joel, who worked on that Parklet project, are going to be speaking with Marilyn Zapp about the collaboration of that project. It's going to be a great event. We've already got 62 people signed up to go, which is great. I was a little surprised earlier today when I checked because we just actually opened for registration a few days ago, and we're already up to 62, so that's great. I am still looking. I was going to reach out to you, Katie. I'm looking for one of the components of the event is a Pachacucha Sunday morning. Some people call it a Pachacucha, but I think it's tomato. Sunday from 10 to noon at Citizen Vinyl, we're doing a Pachacucha, and we have 3 designers. I'm still looking for 3 makers to speak at the Pachacucha. I'm waiting for some confirmations from a couple people I've reached out to, but people are been slow to respond. And then I'm also looking for 3 architects. Chip Howell is going to be out of town that weekend. I wanted him to talk about his collaboration with Keenan Lake, with My Daddy Taught Me That. They had a really cool project over the summer called Exploring Architecture. And I was thinking that would be a really good platform for them, but he's going to be leaving with his wife to Ireland the day of the Pachacucha, like early that morning. So if you guys know of any makers that might want to present, if you don't know the format of Pachacucha, it's 20 slides, 20 seconds per slide, and it's auto advancing. So you're locked in to like 6 minutes and 40-ish seconds. So you don't have to, it's not a large commitment the day of the show. You might put a little bit of time into preparing for it, but the loose theme of the weekend is collaboration. But if somebody just wanted to, I really would like to have some PLC makers. I think, we're short on BIPOC representation for the event, maybe aside from me. And so I would really love, if you know anybody that's doing really anything cool in the craft area or architecture area that might be willing to speak at the Pachacucha that Sunday, that would be really awesome. We've got some great supporters. We've got BizWorks is a financial sponsor, and so is Explore Asheville. Still trying to pull in some in-kind food donations for the White Breakfast Saturday morning, and also for the kickoff social Friday night, September 30th. That is in conjunction with an art opening at Center for Craft. That's all I got. I guess I'll say one other thing. And I probably mentioned this last time we spoke. Actually, it was in our coalition meeting. So you guys, except for Pete and Katie, were not aware of this. But the whole objective of the weekend is to shine a spotlight on Asheville's amazing designers, makers, and architects. Some of you may know this about me, but my underlying objective is always to retain as much business for our creative individuals in Asheville, as we lose so much work to other markets. And so in most of my efforts, I'm just trying to let businesses know how much amazing talent we have here, so they can invest in our own creatives, and that money stays in our economy, and people go out and spend money at our establishments. And so it's like a win-win scenario. So now that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Well, I guess I'm next. I've been working with the 21st Century Community Learning Center grant. Delta House was awarded a $1.2 million grant for 3 years. But you have to spend the money and then they reimburse you. So it's not that easy. And one of the things that we're being involved in is family engagement, community engagement, art and culture. Some of the people that the students have been reading about, it was such a coincidence at the East End Festival. They were passing out African Americans who made a contribution in Asheville, and one of the persons in the drawing was Clifford Cotton, and there he was sitting there with the jazz band. And so we were able to show the kids how you can make a connection, and now he wants to work with the kids. So he's in his 80s, but you think about it, look how the kids are helping him to rejuvenate. Well, I won't tell my age, but I'm getting close there. So this is keeping me going, and so I'm excited about this. And so we will be able to do public art, family engagement, and intergenerational learning. So this is going to be a big deal. We did have a grant 2010 to 2014. And one of the things that we did, and this was in partnership with Leaf, but I know Delta House spent $20,000. We took a bus of students to New Orleans and their parents, and they had master classes with Preservation Hall. They were able to eat food that represent the culture down there, especially gumbo, one of my favorites. And one of the artists that died, I think he sold one painting. It was worth $10,000. The feathers from the parade, Mardi Gras parade, he created a work of art, and it sold for $10,000. And it was upsetting. I have his book here in my house where he died of COVID, and the kids had a chance to talk to the artist. I can't think of his name right now, but that's one of the things that I want to do. And I guess being in education for over 30 some years, and I did try to get the kids to understand what public art was about. And I did a lot with the art museum and the Wyoming Culture Center. But this is a chance to help the kids, especially a lot of our students are having problems with social and emotional well-being. And this, I can see a change now with students working in the arts. So I'm trying to do a little both and even get parents involved. So hopefully we can spread, and we will have community engagement. And I'll be quiet in a minute. We had a community engagement in June. People were invited, and I looked around, and neighbors came and their children. It was exciting. We had it out in Delta House yard, and everybody was saying it was so delightful and all. And one thing, we're in partnership with Asheville Middle School, and they're going to have a site, so we will hopefully be able to use their facility for big events. So I'm working day and night. And remember, it's reimbursable. You have to spend the money, send the receipts. It's not that easy. Okay.
Not easy at all. It's a lot of money to spend.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing, Shirley. You definitely sound very busy.
Day and night. My eyes just opened up today.
Bless your heart.
I'm right there with you, Shirley. I know.
Yeah. Do we have any more updates before we move to public comment? Okay. Do we have any public comment? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I'll just reiterate the upcoming Asheville Music Professionals mixer that I told stuff about earlier. And it's going to be held on October 4th at the Crow and Quill downtown. And usually it's just a couple dozen musicians and things like that. And but it's really neat. You get a lot of new people in town come, and that's their introduction to their fellow musicians in the scene. And you know, so much of music is so social. We need each other to be in bands and things like that. So it's a really effective way for people to introduce each other. And so if you want to come on out, that would be great. And we will have a newsletter. We'll have a newsletter going out in advance of that. So if you're not signed up for the Asheville Music Professionals newsletter, do sign up. Or if there's something that we can help amplify, because that's what we do, at AMP, then, please let us know.
So I do have one more update that I neglected to share. The Asheville Area Arts Council has an Arts Build Community Grant, which opened today. And the deadline is October 15th. These are for arts-based community projects, so public art. And so I encourage you guys to help us spread the word. The grants are up to $2,500 for the project. You can just go to ashevillearts.com/grants to learn more. Yes, Steph.
Thank you, Chair. I added one thing to the agenda under updates. It's just a link to the Moorhead Kane Scholars Report. This was something we had wanted to go over, at least share with you after those 5 amazing students started looking at our downtown as part of the pre-planning for the Peck Square Plaza visioning. There's sections in there. One of the more interesting ones is a conversation about how to provide more information to the 20 and under crowd about what types of things they might like to do if they came downtown. So check it out.
Any big revelations from that, Steph?
Like I said, that portion about relevance of downtown to youth, basically it not being relevant anymore to youth, and parking and looking at that in a different way. So I know Andrew especially will be interested in that section. Those are 2 of the more interesting pieces.
Great. So moving on to public comment. Do we have any?
We have no callers on the line, and there was no voicemails or emails received in advance, so no public comment.
Okay. So we have under other updates, announcements, and agenda setting for upcoming meeting, list of public art projects for upcoming 2 years. Steph, do you want to explain that a little bit?
Right. You guys may remember at our May meeting that I gave a quick FYI on how the city's budgeting for public art changed visually. And that now when you open our budget book and you look in our CIP, our capital improvements plan, you'll actually see the amount that's dedicated for public art each year. And part of your role moving forward is going to be taking a look at a list of projects, both existing and potential future projects, and trying to determine the buckets of where those funds should go to. So helping staff understand where you think the community could best use the placemaking efforts. And I mentioned at that time that September would be the earliest that we would have an idea about that list. I don't have it this month, but I'm hoping that next month I can send you a document that will help us start to figure that out. And what I'm going to suggest is that there's a smaller committee that do a little bit of pre-work and then come to the commission and bring everybody into the fold and have those deliberations in the public.
That sounds very exciting.
It is exciting. It's a lot of money. Between the money we have right now for improvements to the River Arts District and the money we have for this year's capital projects and some money we have for maintenance on the urban trail, we have almost $500,000 to spend, y'all. So funding for projects high, for other resources maybe not matching, but with your help, I think we can do this.
So I've got a quick question. This might be a future agenda item, but I noticed driving through River Arts District, there's a few of the pieces that are up have, as the landscaping has grown in so lovely, it's actually blocked the view of some of the things. All feet stand under the stars. Looks like that we lose some of the words on the end. And I just wonder if whether we've got a plan to keep it readable and have the sort of vegetation, look, because they're both things are nice, but they're working together sort of counteractively.
Agreed. So I will speak to our Parks Department about the landscaping and put that request in. I'm going to see that as a request, and I think that was the intent, Andrew, was
Yeah.
to read it.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Stephanie, any updates on the commission restructuring process and what you see for a timeline on that?
So my understanding is that the process in general has slowed down tremendously and the focus has shifted. So instead of focusing on boards and commissions, the focus is now on city council committees. So in a way, they're still focusing on some of the outcomes that we were looking for, which was a better relationship between board members, advisory board members, and council. But we're now trying to continue to take public input and figure out maybe a different way to do that that doesn't necessarily look like the original proposal.
And what I'll say is city staff is doing a really great job of keeping the chairs updated on what's happening and then asking us to forward that along to you. So every time I receive an email, I forward that on to the Public Art and Culture Commission. So I encourage you to read those emails. Right now, they're creating a survey that'll go out to all board and commission members. They're refining those questions. And so those should be going out to you soon.
Yeah, I asked just because as we recruit other members, that's a moving target we're going to have to keep in mind.
Yeah, but the original proposal has been completely thrown out.
Yeah, as a critic of the way this sort of like came about and where it first was proposed, I'm really glad to see that we've moved in this direction. I feel that this is positive and that I think it's going much better now than it was 6 months ago. So I'm pleased to see that. I'm pleased to see that movement. So, and I thank city staff for that.
I will
Okay.
forward your appreciation onto the core team.
Do anything else before we move to adjourn? Okay. So I will adjourn the meeting now unless there are any objections. Seeing no objections, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Talk
everybody.
soon, everyone.